This video is brought to you by GreaterCommons.com. Greater learning, greater opportunities, greater life. So GitHub is where we keep code. So GitHub is social coding, right? It's like Facebook but for coders. It's the new resume for programmers. You have to have a GitHub repo, and you could come in here and you could see people's code that they've worked on. And you could see what languages they've worked on and how much. And you can look at their code. And you could follow people, and people could follow you. And so you have some social recognition. And if you come here and you see, okay, Todd is followed by 1.2 thousand people. Oh, that's pretty good, right? But if you go and look at like my friend Zeno Rocha, and Zeno is an awesome front-end programmer, JavaScript, 4.6 thousand followers. Whoa. Okay, and then you can see how active he is, all of his contributions down here. A little bit of an indication of, Zeno. So I'm going to create a new repository. So I come up here and I click New Repository, little plus sign. And I'm going to call this repository, and what was the name of my folder? CD. I'm in my user space, and then I created in here, print working directory, and then change directory. And I just know this pathway in my head. Right, documents, go workspace, source, GitHub, goes to 11, and then in here, because this is my workspace, right, I went into my go workspace, and I went into the source folder where I keep source code. Then I went into github.com, and then I went into goes to 11, which is my GitHub username. So my GitHub username is goes to 11, right, and this is namespacing. This is package management. So this is how we manage packages and namespace in Go. And if I go look at, this, just kind of, I'll go here, just keep that where it's at. And if I go look at my, documents, and then my Go workspace, and then my source, and you could have different domains here. You can see I've got different domains. That's really small for y'all, but let me make that a little bigger. I've got, Go workspace, source, github.com. And then look, all these different users. I've downloaded code from other people. Okay, well, let's put it in a folder with their username. So we're keeping people's code separate. Somebody else wrote code. I want to use it in my program. Julian Schmidt, great router. We're going to use his stuff. And go get Julian Schmidt's router for me. Goes, gets it, brings it down, puts it there. It's ready to go. Right? So we could use code other people wrote in our programs. And it just manages it for us. That's why you want just one Go workspace. This is package management. It's namespacing. And then in my program, I'd import it. Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. All right, man. How are you? Good. Right? So Julian Schmidt and Satori and like New 7 Hatch, right? We might use some of this stuff. I'm not seeing. There's New 7 Hatch. So anyhow, that's package management. So in goes to 11, me, right? I have all these different folders in here of different repos that I have. These all correspond to GitHub repos because it's GitHub, my username, and this. And it's not just wired in. I got to think, oh, let me set this up, on GitHub, and on my computer I want to name it the same way. So what I mean by name it the same way, here I have a folder server-side scripting. It's the folder we'll use for the code in this class, right? And some of the code in this class, we're going to use 2. But server-side scripting here, I'm going to set up that repo. So here I'm going to call it server-side scripting. And I want to name the repo, my new repository name, server-side scripting, the same name as my folder here, server-side scripting. And that's just so it makes sense in my own head. They could be different names, but keep it the same. And then I'm just going to hit create repository. Done. Now there's a few instructions here. We'll come back to these in a second. First thing I want to do with server-side scripting, and so let me just keep our notes going here. And I guess I'm going to do GitHub first. And then some bullets. And I want those to be 18. And so create a GitHub repo. Put I'm just trying to think about the pathway to tell you this. So create a GitHub repo. To create a GitHub repo, give it a name, so Go Workspace. So create a folder in your Go Workspace, the same name, Go Workspace, and then source, and then github.com, and then, you know, your GitHub username, and then your folder. Right? So those will be folders. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. So server-side scripting, right? And then that matches here. I already created that folder, so it's a little bit different. Now the next thing we want to do is put a gitignore file in your folder. Get it from me here. So github.com goes to 11, Golang web dev, right? At this repo of mine, I'm going to copy that in a second here. There's a gitignore file, so there it is. There's my gitignore file. I'm just going to copy that and put that into our notes. So there it is. Okay, so you could go there, and when you go there, you'll be taking this. You could say raw. And you could copy all this. Copy it. Yeah? And then I could go back to my terminal. And I'm right now in goes to 11 on my terminal. That's where we left off. Do I have a couple terminals going? No, that's it. So I need to go into my server-side scripting. And that's what's in there. I need my gitignore. So I'm going to remove these files. These things. Sorry. I left the dash off. And then remove recursively with for server. And then ls. Cool. It's all gone. And I'm going to do a nano.gitignore. Yeah? You know what that does, right? I'm creating a new file. It's called .gitignore. And it's going to open a text editor to edit that file. I'm going to paste in everything I copied. Right? So that's everything I copied from Todd's gitignore. Cool? And what this does is it says ignore certain things. GitHub is going to keep track of all of your code as you write code. And it'll keep it keeps track of what happens when. And so you could always say, you know what, go back to the way it was Tuesday. I really screwed up the last 2 days. Roll it back to Tuesday. Okay? And so the gitignore says ignore certain stuff. Don't keep track of, and here I'm saying don't keep track of PIM files. Because PIM files are all about credentials and securities, and I don't want to upload my PIM files to GitHub where anybody could see my secret keys, my private keys, and then have access to stuff. So never upload a PIM file. And I've said, you know what, ignore all JPEGs. But I've commented those out with the £sign. So okay, I'll upload the JPEGs for you, and I'll upload the PNG files for you, and they'll be stored on GitHub. All right, so I exit this, Control X, and save it, and write this file name to write, gitignore. Cool. All right, and now if I was to cat, if I say ls, there, it didn't show up with ls because it's a hidden file. So I have to do ls-la. Oh, there it is, gitignore. See it? And then I could cat.gitignore if I wanted. I'm just going to do Command K to clear my screen. And now cat.gitignore, and there's my gitignore file. Sweet. That's what I need to have in my repo when I start. As soon as I start tracking, as soon as I make this a Git repository, I want to ignore stuff. So that's right from the get-go. All right, so that's catted, just showing me the contents. So that's all that's in there right now is .gitignore. All right, cool. I come back to these instructions. So let's make sure we're doing this. We added the gitignore in there. And now we're going to, in your folder, run these commands. Run the commands run these commands. I like these commands. Okay. All right, so in that folder on your computer. And by the way, for those people on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could get to these notes at that short URL right there. So pause your video, go to that short URL, and you'll be able to get to these notes. https://goo.gl/63v3gu, lower and uppercase critical, sensitive, whatever. So in the folder on your computer, run these commands. So we're going to do a git init, and then we're going to do git add -- all, and then a git commit -m, first commit, and then the other two commands from GitHub's webpage, where you just created a repo. So now I come here, right, and there's git init, git commit, first commit, and then here are the two other commands. And this connects the folder on my computer with the folder up in the sky on GitHub. Okay? Those last two commands do. So I'm going to do those commands. So git init, I got to do it lowercase. And it says initialize empty git repository. Watch what happens if I do lsla now. What's different? What's been added?
.git file.
Is it a file or is it a directory?
Oh.
How do you know? There's a D in front of the RWXs, right? And what does the dot mean? So that's just a piece of software called Git, which does version control. It's version control software. There's an interesting story behind it. Linux was built with version control software. Linus Torvalds, who created Linux, was using some VCS software, version control software, from another company. They were giving it to him for free because Linux was an open source project, but then they said, we're going to start charging you. You're getting big. He said, screw you, I'm going to write my own version control software. He wrote it and he put them out of business. Everybody uses Git now. GitHub was created on top of Git. All right, so we got that git init. Now we're going to do a git. Now I'm going to teach you some git commands. Git commands, okay? So this like needs to be like its own. I've like got all that high text right there. Git commands. So there's git status, git add -- all, git commit -m, some message. So the flag m is for message. Git push, git pull. That's it. So I could get my status, git status. And it says, hey, there's an untracked file. So I do my git status, untracked file. So now I do a git add -- all. And I do my git status again. Hey, we're tracking that, but it needs to be committed. Okay, git commit -m to give it a commit message. This is my first commit, yo. Right? And now I do a git status. And it's like, nothing to commit, working directory clean. But I could do a git push and push it up to the, oh, I got to first add, git remote add, name URL, and git push. So that's where I come back over here. I lost my path. And I got to get this, because it's saying git remote add origin, git GitHub goes to 11 server-side scripting. It's connecting my local with my origin. The origin is the source from which all programmers who connect to this repo will pull the code. So it's called origin. Right? So I'm going to add that. And then I just do git push u. The first time you got to do git push u origin master, and it sets it. Or something. I'm not sure what that does. And now I could come over here to GitHub, go back to my account, goes to 11, and go to repositories and server-side scripting, and there's my code. Git ignore. Okay? So watch this though. Let's learn GitHub. So now I'm just going to do nano and surfer girl. And I love riding waves, whatever. Exit, save it, doom. Get status. Hey, Surfer Girl's not being tracked, untracked. Okay, let's track it. Get add dash dash all. Adds everything in my repository. Get status. Hey, it's being tracked, but it hasn't been committed. Get commit dash m adds Surfer Girl file. Get push. And so the commands there are get status, get add dash dash all, right? Get commit, get push. Sweet. And now if I go back to my GitHub and refresh, hey Surfer Girl. And I could click on it. I love riding waves. Sweet. And if I want to copy it, I just go to raw and it gives me the raw text and I could copy it. Very cool. Right? And it's got the commit message, add Surfer Girl file. And so if many people are working on this, I could see who's making commits, what they're committing, what their code is. Right? If I have another computer, I could go home and I could say, hey, pull that code down. I was working at work. I pushed it all up before I went home. And I got home and I pulled it all down and worked on it more and then pushed it all up. Came back to work the next morning, pulled it all down, worked on it at work, then pushed it all up and go back home and pull it all down and work on it at home. Total code management. And it's keeping track of my changes. I could always go back and I could look at any time for my commits. I could say, you know what, I want to see what this looked like back when I was here. This is my first commit, yo. I just click on that. Well, that's not what I wanted to click on. Click on this commit right here. And same thing. Where is it? Browse file, unified split, comment, unsubscribe. I don't know. I can't find it right now, but there's somewhere where when you come into your commits, you could say, I want to see what it looked like at this point in time. Let me see if I can find it. Huge right here, right? Totally overlooking at browse files, and I could see this is what your code base looked like when you made that commit. You know, I'm now looking at this code base with that commit. If I just come back here, I'm going to go back to my normal one. But you could go back and see your code base at any point in time. So when you do something, you make some changes, commit it, push it. Make some more changes, commit it, push it. Right? So you're always keeping track of your work, and you can always look back. Amazing. So that's GitHub, and we'll use that in class. And you need to get that set up with your repo. And you know, now this repo is ready to start putting code into it, and you guys will be able to all download it and work with it. So pretty cool. Anybody have questions?
So it's all everyone puts their code up there, and then everyone has equal access to it?
You could have private repos too.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, where you just like, oh, only my 7 friends can see this
so
this
if you have
code.
some code you're proud of, you want to put it up for the world to see, boom, it's there. But if it's not, then you don't have to. You don't.
Yeah.
So it's just people that are in this, group of, coding programmers basically networking through this website, right?
Yeah, social networking, right? Like on Facebook, you share photos, you could share them with the world, or you could only say only these people, only my family, or you could say, hey, only my friends and family, right? You could say same with your code.
And can you search for certain kinds of code you use for a certain function or something?
Yeah, so like, here is like my summer web boot camp, when we did that boot camp I was telling you about. Summer boot camp, and I came in here the other day and I was like, oh, how did they do that thing with args? And 34 code results. Okay, cool. Let me see which one I'm looking for.
And if something comes in, say someone wanted to add code to one of your projects, but you didn't really like what they did, you could go back to a...
Well, they submit a pull request. They say, hey, man, I changed your code. This is what was wrong, and this is why you should accept my pull request. You say, oh, cool, good change, accept. Or you might say, no, 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 no.
Oh.
So
yeah.
People can change you leave it open source, so other people can come change your files, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't connect it into that website.
So when you create a new repository, it gives you all those instructions. So you're going to do, create the same folder structure to match GitHub, same folder name as your repo, and then put it in your Go workspace. And then git init, right, is the first one. And then git add all. You want to add that .gitignore file, right? But then git add all, and then git commit first commit. And then you're going to have those two other commands from GitHub's webpage, right? And one was like git remote origin and git push origin something. And you just do those two lines when you create your repo. When you create your repo, it'll ask you, do you want to add a gitignore file? And don't do it at that point, otherwise you don't get those instructions. So here, like, I don't want to say, oh yeah, add a gitignore file. Right? Don't add anything here. And when you create a repo, right, just TTT, it gives you these instructions, and these last two lines are the ones. This is pretty much what I said, but they're adding a README. We're adding a gitignore, and we're adding it before the init. And then I don't want this repo, so I go back to TTT. Ugh. I go back to my repositories. I go to TTT, and then, oh man, settings. Here we go, and then down here, danger zone. And make this, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many are there, copy that. And I go make private, transfer, delete this repository, put in the name of the repository, and bye-bye. And all that's gone. That repo's gone, the code and everything. Good questions.
So you want to keep the code on your machine and on this website.
Yep.
And when you're committing it, it's basically syncing everything for you and letting you know what's not uploaded, essentially.
Yeah, it's a whole process. You do a git add, and then you do like git add -- all, right? And then you do a git commit with some message, -m some message, and then you do a git push. Like those are your three bread and butter, and then git status kind of tells you what's going on. Those are your three bread and butter: git add -- all, git commit some message, and git push. And occasionally when you push when you leave work before you go home, and then when you get home you could pull it and it brings down the current copy of the code to that machine.
And then are there some people that just work directly on the website instead of their machine and just keep everything and edit on the cloud basically?
You can do that, but that's not the way, because people want their environments. You might make a minor change on the GitHub, and there's different versions of GitHub. GitHub's the most popular. There's also GitLab, which offers more free stuff. And if you're a student, because they're not as popular, you could do GitHub Student, and they have an entire GitHub education, learn to code with GitHub.
Is it just meant to be more user friendly or something?
Here's the student developer pack, and you could get some free stuff. So if you want to sign up with that, they'll give you like a private repo, which you normally have to pay for because you're a student. They'll give you one or something. Right. They don't actually give you a backpack. Don't think that. I think it's a little misleading. Get your pack. They're giving you like stuff for their partners also. All right, so that's GitHub.